Welcome back to another episode. In this episode, I want to have a conversation about interview nervousness and just how to deal with interview nerves. I have decided to do this video today because personally, when I was starting out my career, my first interviews were terrible. I used to have terrible nerves, and there's a video that I did last year on how to deal with interview nervousness, and some of the questions that I got in that video, or some of the comments, or even some of the DMs that I was getting in my social media platform when I posted that videos, is just how many candidates or many job seekers still struggle with nerves during interview sessions. So I've decided to do another video, but this one just to be very specific and share with you a few hacks you can consider when going for an interview to reduce interview nervousness. Welcome back to my channel. If you're getting yourself here for the first time, my name is Nelly, and in this channel I share content on job search strategy, career development topics, just to help you build rewarding and fulfilling careers. And welcome back. If you're a returning viewer, just take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Of course, it's quite important if you subscribe, because that just motivates me to do more great content, which will help you build a rewarding and fulfilling career. So without much ado, let's get into the video. So I think it's quite important first to just get to understand why most people struggle with interview nervousness, or why we develop nerves during interviews. Just from the time that you're invited for an interview, you begin to feel scared. You begin to have a feeling of fear. And from where I sit, I think this is because nobody ever know, or we'll never really get to know what to expect in an interview. As much as we might prepare so much, prepare answering the most commonly asked interview questions, which is a good thing to help you build confidence, you really never know what shape the interview is going to take. So naturally, it is the fear of unknown, where you get yourself really trying to imagine so many things. What will they ask me? How will it turn out? Who are the panelists? How do they look like? What does this company look like? And so on and so forth. So those questions that bring you to a point of uncertainty is what basically builds that anxiety, which is natural, but it's quite important that we deal with anxiety, because it makes you freak in an interview, and it automatically and significantly affect your performance in an interview. So that's why it's with that understanding, it's quite important for you then to prepare to deal with nerves. And I would also want to know in the comment section how, or rather if you've ever struggled, or if you've ever encountered a situation where you get into an interview and you begin to shake, you begin to sweat profusely, because these are some of the symptoms, or rather these are some of the ways that a panel will tell, or you can easily tell if a candidate is nervous. Just let me see some of your comments or feedback in the comment section, if you've ever found yourself in such a scenario, and how did you deal with it. So just to get me to the first point on the few hacks that I want to share on how to deal with interview nerves. And before then, just to share from my own experience, one thing I believe is quite important that helps nervousness in an interview is preparation. Nothing really beats preparation, because, you know, as I already said, you're getting scared or you're getting nervous because you don't know what to expect. So the more you prepare is the more you familiarize yourself with an interview conversation. The more you familiarize yourself with how the interview may take shape, or what type of questions can be asked in an interview, or even how to talk in an interview, and so on. So that brings me to my point number one. First hack on how to deal with interview nervousness is to understand the job. So getting to know the job that you're interviewing for. And how can you know about the job? You can know more about the job through reading the job description. Of course, that's where all the information about the job is. So it's from the job description that you'll get all the information that you need to know about the job. So, you know, most of the time, or rather in an interview, the questions that you're going to be asked, especially the technical questions, are the things that are in the job description. So when you look at the job description, the things that the job description wants, if they say we want somebody who has experience in operating maybe this type of a machine, somebody who has experience in previous experience in leading a team, somebody who has experience in this and that. So that is basically, those are basically the questions that are going to be asked in an interview. So that's why it's quite important that you familiarize yourself with the job description to help you with all relevant information that you need to know about the job. And to connect this with why most candidates feel nervous is that when you get into an interview and you're asked a question from the job description and you're not able to answer, and anytime you're asked an interview and you're not able to, anytime you're asked a question in an interview and you're not able to answer, then fear begins to come in. And if I know you've all experienced that, those moments that you get into an interview, you're asked a question and you're not able to answer, then automatically fear begins to come in. So that's why it's very important that you get to understand the job inside out, get to understand the technical skills that are required for the job, get to understand the work experience that is required for the job, get to understand what are the attributes that are looking for that person. So like if you check most job description, maybe a job description will say like, we are looking for somebody who's a good communicator, we're looking for somebody who's confident, we are looking for somebody who keeps confidentiality. So you're able to pick the right skills that are needed in that job description and of course mention them in the interview. So when you're able to answer these questions from the job description confidently, then you're already dealing with interview nerves or fear that actually brings the anxiety and the nerves in an interview. Hack number 2 that you need to consider is to research and understand about the company. Why do I say that you need to understand about the company? That's usually one of the most important questions that come in any interview when you're asked, when a panel just asks you, so what is it that you know about us? And most of the time it even comes at the onset or at the start of the interview. And imagine if you're not able to answer the questions that come at the initial point of an interview right, it automatically makes you so scared, you know. So that will automatically bring in nervousness and make you become or bring feelings of anxiety. So you need to research about the company just to get to understand what are the company vision, mission, and what are some of the products that they deal with or services. And it's even important that you follow them on, or rather check them out on their social media platforms. And what this helps you with, when you check them on their social media platforms, you are likely to get very up-to-date and current information about the company. So, you know, the more you're able to answer questions correctly, the more your confidence level increases and the more anxiety or nervousness goes down. So you need to just understand the questions. I mean, you need to get to understand details about the company that I've mentioned, about products, services, what are their competitors, what is it that is new about them in the market, what are some of the current information or current happenings, occurrences that in the company. So when you get to understand deeply about the company, then you're better placed to answer the question of what is it that you know about us, or tell us something that you know about this company. Hack number 3 is to avoid treating interviews as threatening, or rather as dreadful conversations. Why I say that is most candidates, or rather naturally, we are made to feel that interviews are very hard or are very policing type of conversations. For a better word, let me say that. For lack of a better word, let me say that. It becomes out policing because we are used to getting into interviews and we are in the side of being asked questions. So you find an interview very interrogative. So naturally, this makes us very fearful, makes the conversation very fearful. I'm really not disputing the fact that an interview can be a very difficult conversation, but I'm making the point that you need to shift your mind from thinking that it is a policing or interrogative conversation to actually think of interviews as a chance for you to sell yourself to your prospect employer. So when you look at it from that point of a conversation or a chance for you to sell yourself, then you'll make an interview a point or a session for you to go and pitch your qualifications. So you need to shift your mind from looking at it like a policing conversation, to looking at it as a point for you to do your sales pitch. You're going to actually sell to your potential employer. So this will automatically change your view, because the reason for anxiety or fear for interviews is that you're going to get to the drill bench where you're being interrogated. You're getting into some sort of police question and answer, which really will make you feel so threatened, make you feel so belittled, make you feel so small when you're on this other side. So you need to shift your mind from just making it feel like it's a very dreadful conversation to shift your mind and look at it as a chance to do your sales pitch and a chance to just sell your skills and the potential value that you have to your potential employer. The fourth hack that you need to consider to reduce anxiety is to always dress for the occasion. Dress well, dress for the interview. So I always say that outfit, or rather first impression, that in most cases is created through just how you see somebody. Even before, when you meet someone, even you when you meet someone just in a normal conversation, even before, and for instance, somebody, particularly somebody you've never ever met, even before they just say a word, you've already judged them, either knowingly or unknowingly. So that first impression, how you dress, determines the type of impression that you'll create. So always choose the best attire for your interview. I know that's another whole video that maybe I'll make someday on the type of attires that you need to use, the type of attires in terms of colors, in terms of how do you need to look for, how do you need to look when you're going for an interview. So ensure that you're dressed smartly, because imagine when you open an interview room, especially for physical interviews, even for virtual interviews, then if you're not dressed well, then naturally you'll see how people react. I think if you realize that people are not comfortable, or people have not perceived you as nice looking or as good looking, you'll automatically be distracted. So how do you show up? Show up in a decent way. Show up dressed decently and dressed smartly. So the rule is always to dress above every other employee. The way an employee will dress on a normal day, so you need to go step ahead. That means you need to be smart, and interviews you need to be officially dressed. And of course, depending on the industry that you're taking the interview, so it really helps, it really goes back again to understanding the type of company, the type of industry that you're interviewing in, and just get to understand the type of dress code that aligns with that industry or that aligns with that specific company. The next hack you need to consider is to prepare to answer the most commonly asked interview questions. I think this is something you can't really avoid. Why I say so is that you want to be confident. The more you answer questions correctly, the more confident you are. The more information you have about these questions, the more confident you are. And of course, the more confident you are, the less anxious you will be. So one of the questions that I really want to emphasize that you need to prepare for, guys, is the obvious question of tell me about yourself, walk me through your CV, who are you? You need to prepare. And when preparing for this interview question, tell me about yourself, there's a video that I've done on how to answer tell me about yourself. You can check it up here. And it's quite important that you understand how to answer this interview question, because most of the time it's actually the pace setter for any interview conversation. So just understand how you're going to talk about your qualities as a candidate, how you're going to talk about your skills, how you're going to talk about your experience and academic qualifications, and of course how you're going to talk about your achievements, your previous achievements, and the value that you've already or you've been able to add in your previous employment. And most importantly, how you're going to talk about your personality, the type of person that you are, and how hiring you will make a difference in that organization. And apart from that, it's also just important to prepare for other questions, behavioral, technical questions, just across. And this also takes me back to the point of understanding the job description, so that you can always tell some of the predictable questions that you can be asked around the job just by understanding what the job requires. The next hack is to always be ready with questions to ask the panel when they give you a chance to do so. I know I've seen some people say that it is not a must that you ask a question in an interview. While it is not a must, it is very important. Imagine if someone has been having a conversation with you for almost 30 minutes, or even if you've been talking to someone just in a normal conversation for more than 30 minutes, then it gets to a chance where you ask them, now, do you have a question for me? Then they tell you, no, I don't have. How would you feel? I think it will just, the first thing that may come to your mind, or the first thing that will come to my mind, I would say that this person, oh, okay, they might have not even been listening to what I was saying. Or, okay, they're not interested in this conversation. Or, okay, maybe I'm just wasting their time. So how will you feel? That's how also the panel will feel. So it's quite important, guys, that you prepare to ask questions, and not just questions, but quality questions in an interview. This usually comes at the end when the panel has taken you through all the questions of the interview, and they just give you a chance to ask them a question. I'd also done a video on some of the good questions that you can ask at the end of an interview. You can actually watch that video. I'll also leave the link of that video in the description, just for you to get to understand some of the smart questions that you can ask in any interview. I segmented the questions into questions about the job, questions about the company, and of course questions about the panel that you can just ask to help you get more information about the job. So next time you're going for an interview, at least prepare 2 or 3 questions that you want to ask. But depending on the mood of the interview, how engaging it is, you can always ask more. There's really no rule of how many questions you can ask, but be able to read the mood and the attitude of the panelist. Sometimes we can ask so many questions that somebody might even, maybe the panel might get bored. And at the end of it all, guys, it's also important to be very sensitive that you're not the only person who's being interviewed. Maybe they have like 10 or 20 or even more people being interviewed. So it's very important that when determining the number of questions that you want to ask, it's important that you read the mood of the panelists at the end of the interview, or that time that you're given the chance to ask a question. The next hack, which is very important for me, and this applies more for a physical interview, is to arrive on time. And if it's a virtual interview, is also just to get on set, on where you want to take the interview, on time. So why I say this will help you greatly in reducing interview nerves is, imagine if you get to the interview the exact time or even late than the scheduled time, then automatically you don't even have time to sit, relax yourself, and just get yourself organized. So if you appear so disorganized, this disorganization is what will make you so freaked out, so scared, and just get so confused. So at least arrive maybe 15 minutes early. I know some people even arrive 30 minutes early, but that will really depend on what you're doing before the interview. I also know you don't want to come to an interview so early and waste much time before the panel starts. So 15 minutes is a good time when you arrive 15 minutes early. So this really just helps you to ensure that if there were documents that you're supposed to bring, you have all the documents, they're in order. If there's any information that had been requested, you have it. And when you're taking a virtual interview, I've done also a video on how to prepare for virtual interviews, which is quite important, just to get you to know how then do you prepare for a virtual interview, so that you ensure that you are on set before time, just to help you relax and deal with your nerves. Getting scared is a normal part of life, but planning and just getting organized is a great way to ensure that you actually deal with your nerves before the interview. And the last bonus tip that I want to give you, and especially for candidates who are doing virtual interviews, is to always get your device tested, get your device ready, and familiarize yourself with the platform that you're using. This is really, really important. Let me give you a typical example. If you're doing an interview, let's take an example, maybe you're doing it on Zoom or Microsoft Teams, then the moment you just start an interview, your system, your machine or your laptop with a phone just goes off. And maybe you realize that it has just shut. It's not because of power, it's not because of anything. So maybe because it was not in a good condition. So this will make you freak out. Or even worse enough, you get to an interview and you realize that your speaker is not working. Or you realize that you don't know how to unmute yourself or put on your camera. It will automatically throw you off. So for virtual interview, for candidates who are doing interviews virtually, please always ensure that your device is well checked and connectivity is well in place, and that you know how to navigate the platform that is being used for the interview, way on time, way before the interview starts. So yeah, those are the points that I really think are quite important, guys, if you are preparing for any interview, to deal with nerves, to get ready. And the more you really take these points into consideration, prepare well for the interview, the more prepared, the more confidence, and of course less anxiety, and that's how you will beat interview nervousness. Thank you so much for watching. It was nice to have you guys again. If you've not subscribed, consider subscribing. Share this content with someone so they can join this community where we're all about learning and making ourselves better to build those rewarding and fulfilling careers that we desire. Thank you. Till the next video. Bye-bye.